Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick, and in today's video I want to talk about if crested geckos behaviors change after breeding, or are you still gonna have the same gecko that you had the whole time. Okay, so the first thing to kind of understand about crested gecko behavior is that every gecko is going to be completely different. There is no, some geckos are similar, but every gecko, you cannot predict how well they're gonna react to handling. You cannot predict how well they're going to be with, you picking them up, or you'll never know. And you don't know what's going to scare a gecko either. Okay, so sometimes, like early on, I was always told, like, hold your hand out under them, and then they'll just climb on it. They'll just do that. Well, that doesn't happen. That rarely ever happens. There are geckos out there that do that. Just none of mine do that. I'm unfortunate. Okay, so what did work for me though was picking up the gecko gently but firmly and then letting them hand walk. And then once they hand walk for a while, they're pretty chill with you, and they start to, you have some that tolerate it, some that don't. Okay, that's just kind of the way it is. I'm fortunate enough to have quite a few geckos who tolerate handling. They're not necessarily like, oh Nick, I love you, hey, let me jump all over you, let me climb all over you. Nope, they don't do any of that. But what they do is, when I get them out for YouTube videos, they're pretty chill with it, so I feel fortunate enough for that, right? Alright, so when we talk about breeding and what to expect, I have always found, and I do always warn people, and I don't know if it's just because of, of our short experience, but limited gecko experience, I have found that once I've paired some males, they have definitely changed. Now, they have changed in the sense of where they have become a little bit more territorial, not biting me or anything, but I have had a lot more, like, when I hold them, they poop on me. Like, that happens a lot after I breed a male, and it's a little, like, it's kind of annoying because they never did it before, but then as soon as they bred, now they're pooping on you. Now, it could be because if I hold one gecko, I'm typically holding a couple, so if I held a female, maybe that scent's on there, or maybe if I held a male and then I hold another male, there's a lot of things like that that could factor in, but I don't know about any of that, really, because I don't keep track of what order I hold my geckos and when I hold them and then what happens with them. Probably could, but not really worth my time. But I have found that my males definitely become a little different after breeding. And sometimes it's similar to after a tail drop. I have noticed that some geckos, after they drop their tail, they become a little bit more hostile. They become a little bit more scared because it takes a lot for them to drop their tail, and it takes them kind of freaking out. So I think there's something in the brain that changes post-tail drop. For some geckos, like I said, anything I say right now, this isn't a blanket statement on all geckos. This is kind of what I've experienced. So this is just what I've experienced, and if it happens to apply to your gecko, great. If it's polar opposite from your gecko, that's fine. It is what it is. There is nothing that can be 100% with every single gecko. It doesn't make sense. It's like thinking all humans are the same. It'd be silly. My females post-breeding, the main thing that I've really found is that during certain times of the season, if you're holding your gecko and you pet it, or you're holding them, and because I don't recommend petting ever, don't pet your gecko. They're not if you want to pet something, get two puppies who are absolute freaking maniacs around your house. Do that if you want to pet something. But if you're holding your female, and if it's in the season or it's the beginning of the season is when I experience it the most, they'll tend to like lift their tail for you, thinking that you're a male and thinking that you're trying to mate them. Now, some males will think you're a female and they will try to mate your hand. That definitely happens as well. But both of those things, I truly think happen whether you've bred your gecko or not. The behavioral difference to me is we've seen geckos who have never been bred who have tried to breed their owner's hand. Now, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, that could be one of those things, at sexual maturity, and that's why I really don't know, truthfully, either how much of this is a post-breeding mindset versus how much of this is a just sexual maturity mindset for the gecko, because that's a little gray to me right there. But I have talked to people, and I always tell people, right or wrong or indifferent, I always tell people, hey, if they reach out to me for breeding advice, I say, hey, understand there's a potential that your gecko is not going to be that same gecko that you just got out all the time and held and was like, loving to you, or was great at handling. Sometimes I have a couple geckos who were fantastic at handling. They were fun. They were great. And then I bred them, and then they were not anymore. And then something happened, something triggered, and now they don't like being touched. So I don't touch them, you know. I mean, and I'm okay with that. But I know some people who just want to breed, you know, like a one-off, or, you know, they just want to have like 2 or 3 geckos that they breed, and then they kind of sell to a local pet store or something like that. It's just something I like to forewarn you that it could happen. It may not ever happen to you, but it could happen. So it's just something to consider. I have found that females, see, and it's weird though too, because like females don't guard their eggs. Like Crested Gecko females do not guard their eggs. You will never convince me any other way. So female Crested Geckos do not guard their eggs. They don't care about their eggs. These guys will eat their babies. They do not care about the eggs. I do think that there might be a slight trans that they go into after laying, where maybe they care about that spot. They don't care. And here's the thing too, I've heard people be like, oh well, I dug up eggs in this corner, and then the next time she laid in the other corner, trying to hide them from me. She's not trying to hide them from you. She is just trying to find the best place at that moment in time to lay her eggs. That's why they dig a lot of tunnels, because they're trying to find the best spot. There could be some strategery behind there where they're saying, oh look, there's 4 holes here. Which one is it? Maybe. I mean, I doubt it. I think that they just find the best spot with the best humidity. You know, they know what they're doing. They're not stupid. But they also have zero parental instincts, so they do not care about their eggs. They dig them, they bury them, and then they move on with their life. So none of that behavior is evident in these guys. Same thing with males. Males, if you cohab, males could care less about the eggs, honestly. And that's why it's important to get the eggs out, because they'll eat them if they hatch. I mean, you know, that can happen. So, or it may not happen. Sometimes a little gecko just kind of hides for a while, then you find it and you go, oh wow, you lived, good for you. So one thing too, and you could be aggravating it, if you pet your gecko, post-breed or pre-breed, you're kind of triggering a response of, if it's a male and you're petting him, he might think that you're either a predator trying to attack him, or you're like another male trying to show dominance on him, and you really don't want to do that. If you're petting your female, she's going to think that you're a male trying to mate her. That can happen. That's just one of those deals to like be cognizant. When you hold your gecko, do not pet them. They don't like pets. It's not a smart thing to do. It honestly stresses them out. Just understand that this is about as far as we go with handling, you know? Like this, little hand walk, you can put them on your shoulder. There you go. It's cool stuff, but don't pet them, don't treat them like you would a furry animal, because they're just not that, and they really don't like that, and it can be a huge stressor, and you could be triggering things to happen that you're really not trying to do, but they could happen. So just understand that that's not smart, and I think that it gets worse though if you are breeding, because then those senses are already heightened, because they're used to something biting on their neck. They're used to having to be the dominant male in the group. You know, they're wanting to be mated or not be mated. Now you're touching them, and that's why, like, sometimes if you touch a female and she kind of like barks at you or chirps at you, those chirps are saying, get away from me, I don't want this right now. So instantaneously, those chirps, if you ever hear that, put the gecko away and then try again tomorrow, because what they're telling you is, I want to be left alone right now. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I know that nobody's out here like intentionally trying to hurt their gecko or trying to stress out their gecko. I fully understand that. I'm just telling you what things to expect, you know, if you are going to breed, and kind of how to understand the body language of these guys a little bit. I have been fortunate enough, and I think it's mainly because of this YouTube channel, because I handle all my geckos. You see me get out a ton of them. Like I said, I only got two to three geckos who I would deem I don't want to handle you, so you're just not going to get handled, because all you do is poop on my hand. So I've been fortunate enough, and like I said, I think like however many videos we are in, I rotate through the geckos. They get handled once or twice a week. So I kind of chalk up a lot of that to just talking in front of the camera and being able to handle these guys, and then kind of chilling out with me. So that's why that's why I just kind of talk about my experience, because it's very different than somebody else's. The other thing to remember too, if you buy a breeder gecko, understand that breeder geckos are not, like ready to breed geckos, are typically not kept how you're keeping your gecko at home. That gecko has probably not seen a human hand since the last time it tried to take out its egg box. It sees a human hand 8 times a year, and that's it. And most breeders, they don't want to handle any of their breeder females or males because you don't want to mess up the flow. Let it keep happening. Let it go. Don't mess with them. So understand, if you buy a ready to breed animal, expect that animal to not be as tame or as easy to tame as your other animals. That's a very important thing to remember. And that's really it, guys. Comment down below if you've had any experiences with the changes in behavior from your crested geckos, if you do breed. And maybe even talk about, too, some changes in behavior that just happened over time with your pet, you know, because it does happen, and I've experienced it. So until next time, guys, stay safe and stay positive.